Desde Fulbright Network Spain, en colaboración con la Embajada de Estados Unidos en España y la Universidad Nebrija, os invitamos a vivir un encuentro único inspirado por uno de los hitos más emocionantes de nuestra era, la misión Artemis II de la NASA, que ha devuelto a la humanidad a la órbita lunar por primera vez en más de medio siglo, abriendo una nueva era de exploración espacial. Este encuentro se enmarca en la Agenda América 250, un momento perfecto para poner en valor la sólida alianza entre España y Estados Unidos en la frontera más ambiciosa de la ciencia y la tecnología. Nebrija, la universidad, más de 30 años impulsando la innovación, el humanismo y el compromiso profesional. En breve comenzaremos. Rogamos vayan tomando asiento. Muchas gracias. Les agradecemos apaguen o silencien sus dispositivos móviles.
¿Cómo están? Bienvenidos a la Universidad Nebrija. Mi nombre es Álvaro Cremades. Soy el director del Máster Universitario en Seguridad y Defensa del Departamento de Seguridad y Defensa. El decano, Alfonso López de la Osa, le habría gustado mucho estar aquí presente y acompañarnos en un acto de tan altísima relevancia como es este en el día de hoy. Lamentablemente, por razones de agenda, le ha resultado imposible y pues eso me ha beneficiado a mí y que he tenido el honor de poder dirigirles estas palabras con el único ánimo de inaugurarles un evento y darles la bienvenida a un encuentro que, sin lugar a dudas, tiene el más alto interés, no solo para un departamento como en el que yo formo parte, en el cual trabajamos mucho con el Ejército del Aire y el Espacio, trabajamos con el INTA, de modo que son aspectos, los aeroespaciales, que nos son muy conocidos como quinto dominio de las operaciones. Sin lugar a dudas, me llamaba mucho la atención el planteamiento, ¿no? La cuestión de la cooperación en cuanto al ámbito aeroespacial. Creo que eso es especialmente relevante en el día de hoy. Creo que era Harding en el 69, hablaba de la tragedia de los bienes comunes, en los cuales venía a plantear que la apropiación individual de los bienes que son comunes a todas las naciones del planeta terminaba generando una degradación de los intereses de todos los actores que, de alguna manera u otra, de manera descoordinada, se apropiaban de los elementos particulares de ese bien común, ¿no? Harding no se refería tanto al ámbito aeroespacial, se refería más bien a los bosques, ¿no? y cómo las comunidades que colindaban con ellos se apropiaban. Sin embargo, en la década de los 70, una politóloga estadounidense, Eleanor Ostrom, nos planteaba precisamente que eso no tenía por qué ser así, que los bienes comunes no eran necesariamente una tragedia, sino que podían ser precisamente causa y consecuencia de una relación de mutuo beneficio recíproco entre todas las partes. Y por eso creo que en un día como este, en una coyuntura internacional como la que nos encontramos, en la cual pareciera que esa competición entre grandes potencias, ¿no?, esa vuelta a unas ciertas lógicas que en algún momento pensamos que ya habían dejado paso a otras nuevas, el reivindicar hoy precisamente el ciberespacio como dominio de las operaciones y hacerlo desde el punto de vista de la cooperación entre naciones hermanas como son los Estados Unidos y España, me parece de todo relevante. Y, por supuesto, esta cooperación, por supuesto, nace de eventos como este, nace de un pequeño municipio de apenas 5.000 habitantes de la Comunidad de Madrid, Robledo de Chabela, que tan importante sería precisamente para la misión Apolo 11. En ese sentido, quiero que desarrollen, disfruten de la tarde que van a tener hoy, porque precisamente de pequeños actos como este es que como construimos esa conciencia aeroespacial. Una vez más, bienvenidos y, por favor, disfruten de la tarde.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Kevin Wingy-Maynor, the Deputy Cultural Attaché at the United States Embassy. When I was 10 years old, my parents put wallpaper in my bedroom that showed an image of the moon. I wanted to be an astronaut. Every night, I would stare at that image of the moon and the stars on my wall, and I would dream off into the future. There are so many of us that had similar dreams. But to turn those dreams into reality, it takes a lot of hard work and cooperation. To travel around the Earth, you need trusted partners around the globe. Spain has been one of the United States' most important partners to make our space exploration possible. As we look back on 250 years of our nation's founding, we're delighted to see space cooperation with Spain continue to flourish. This panel for aerospace collaboration, organized together with Fulbright Network Spain, is a great example of that flourishing. I would like to begin by thanking Dr. Nicolás Marchal and the Universidad Nebrija and Álvaro Cremades for hosting us in this lovely space where education becomes process. It's an inspirational space, it's beautiful, and I think even these details can really inspire us to think of how much further we can go. So thank you for hosting us here. I also want to extend a special thanks to Fulbright Network Spain and Jesus Garcia Arpericio for their commitment, I'll get it next time for sure, to strengthening the alumni community and for organizing the panel that brings us together here this evening. And of course, our Fulbright alumni wouldn't be here without the incredible work of the Fulbright Commission. So I'd like to thank Alberto Lopez and the Fulbright team for keeping our educational exchanges a vibrant and a living experience. This year, 2026, marks 250 years since the signing of the Declaration of Independence of the United States. Spain played a significant role in supporting our independence, and we celebrate our shared history with the Spanish people this year. As we celebrate this milestone that we are calling Freedom 250, we are reflecting on the spirit of American innovation, which is one of our defining characteristics. Earlier this year, NASA's Artemis II mission returned humanity to lunar orbit for the first time in more than half a century. As we speak, preparations for the Artemis III mission are already underway. The Madrid Deep Space Communications Complex, located in Robledo de Chabela, is essential to the success of these missions, providing key communications capabilities between Earth and space. When you are flying 400,000 kilometers above the Earth, you want to know that you can trust your partners here. When you are building the future through science, you want to know that you can trust your partners. Spain has been that partner for us. The space collaboration between the United States and Spain demonstrates that when our brightest minds work together, the impact is out of this world. Today, we look forward to hearing about what comes next for NASA and how Spain is a crucial and trusted partner in that journey. Thank you all for being here. I hope you enjoy the panel.
Thank you for being here. It's my turn to hold the last opening remarks. The moon. The moon reminds us of a common question. What can we achieve together that none of us we can achieve alone? More than 50 years ago, the Apollo mission proved that humanity could reach certain milestones that at that time belonged to the limits that go beyond of our imagination. Nonetheless, that journey did not belong to only one nation. It came from many people across different countries, different continents, working together with purpose, precision, and above all, trust. From the communication station here near Madrid, that helped guide Apollo, to the Madrid Deep Space Communication Complex, that played a critical role in Artemis II. Spain has kept humanity connected to lunar explorers across distance and generations. That is much deeper than just a simple aerospace collaboration between Spain and the United States. It's not only about antennas, satellites, communications, transmissions. It's something much larger. The conviction that knowledge grows when it is shared, when we work together. That progress endures when it is built with partners. Those are also the same Fulbright values. For generations, the Fulbright program has stood for the belief that education and exchange can turn strangers into colleagues, colleagues into friends, countries into partners, partners also in collaborators, with the goal to achieve peace and a long-standing human flourishing. This is how mutual understanding is built. Project by project, student by student, conversation by conversation, partnership by partnership. Precisely in labs, campus, also like communication controls, rooms, communication centers, and mission center is where those values become tangible. There are actually many Fulbrighters, Spanish Fulbrighters, who have been granted Fulbright scholarship to study aerospace engineering in some of the top US universities, and even some of them work for the NASA. And we are very proud of them. And also this year, as the United States celebrates the year of the Declaration of Independence, we have to remember that independence was not achieved by isolated colonies acting alone, but those 13 future states choosing union, also thanks to support of several nations, including Spain, decided that this new experiment was based on trust, freedom, democracy, and equality could endure over time. That history reminds us that trust is not just a soft value. It's the actual foundation on which ambition goals are built. When people and nations unite around a purpose larger than themselves, they widen the possibilities. They are able to test boundaries and go beyond the human potential and reach beyond what is even done before. The Artemis is just an example. It's the same lesson forward. not only a technical milestone, but also a declaration that humanity still has horizon to cross together. Now we are going to show you a video that you can understand why working together is so important and partnership is based on trust.
You've seen the breathtaking images. You've listened and watched as history is made.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
But have you ever wondered how these images and sounds make their way back to Earth? At NASA Scan, we connect spacecraft exploring the universe to Earth, providing the networking and navigation tools needed to bring data home. From Earth orbit to the Moon, from Mars and beyond, Scan operates the network. We are the unseen lifeline of exploration and discovery. We are how NASA stays connected to the cosmos. And as humanity pushes the boundaries of space exploration, Scan will be there, serving as the crucial link for astronauts, rovers, and orbiters. We're implementing cutting-edge technology, partnering with industry, forging global standards, and creating a resilient, interoperable future in space, so that when we go together and stay connected. We are NASA Scan.
And we stay connected. So let me introduce all our wonderful panelists that are this afternoon with us. I'm gonna, when you talk, you can hold the mic. So let me start with Inmaculada. Welcome, thank you so much to be here.
Thank you very much.
Inmaculada Serrano is CEO of Strat Space and director at New Sky. At a senior executive with more than 30 years of leadership experience across aerospace, telecommunication, and high technology. Her career includes C-level roles such as managing director at the Space at Indra, CEO of Dymos Satellite System and Corporate Strategy and Development Director of the Dymos Group. She has led and scaled complex technological industrial projects, including the industrialization of the Dymos second program, the statistical constellation of more than 3,000 satellites, and the early stage launch of Yoigo, Spain's fourth mobile operator, as well as earlier work connected to Vodafone. An expert in corporate governance, global P&L management, digital transformation, and risk management, she is especially known for bringing deep tech innovation with sustainable business performance. And she is also a committed advocate for STEM education and women in leadership mentoring, technical talent, and speaking internationally on technology, industrial scaling, and gender parity. Thank you for being here. It's such an honor to have you here. So also we have Jose Manuel Grandela. Thank you so much and welcome. Jose Manuel Grandela is a Spanish technical engineer whose professional life is closely linked to some of the defining milestones of the space age. For more than 40 years, he worked at NASA and INTA in Spain as a satellite and spacecraft controller engineer, participating in the Apollo missions to the Moon, Apollo 13 Skylab, the Apollo Soyuz test project, and 87 space shuttle missions. He also contributed to the technical supervision of approximately 50 interplanetary programs, including Mariner, Pioneer, Viking, Voyager, Helios, Mars, Magellan, Galileo, and Cassini. Through his work in NASA INTA's International Communication and Tracking Network, he helped ensure contact between spacecraft and Earth at moments of extraordinary scientific and historical significance. And he received numerous NASA awards and institutional recognition, and was part of the collective Príncipe de Asturias Award for International Cooperation in 1999. So he's also a researcher, lecturer, and profile author. Thank you for being here. I really. So we have also Professor Doctor, just on time, really. I haven't yet introduced you to the audience, so that's perfect on time. So Professor Javier Rodriguez Pacheco is full professor and chair of astronomy and astrophysics at the University of Alcalá, and principal investigator of the energetic particle detector instrument on solar orbiter, a joint ESA-NASA mission. He's one of the few Spanish scientists to have held such a prominent level of responsibility in major international space missions. His research focuses on heliophysics, the sun, the interplanetary medium, and the energetic particles that shape the space environment around Earth and throughout the solar system. Over the course of his career, he has served on important international scientific bodies, including ESA Solar System, Exploration Working Group as an evaluator for the JUICE mission, and a chair of NASA's Heliophysics Advisory Committee. And the next, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here. Philip Baldwin. We have just watched his video, and you will explain what is SCAN later on. But Philip Baldwin is Assistant Deputy Associate Administrator for NASA's Space Communication and Navigation Program, known as SCAN. And in this senior role, he supports NASA's delivery and critical communications services that make exploration and scientific discovery possible, helping maintain and advance the agency's two primary communication networks, the Deep Space Network and the Near Space Network. Mr. Baldwin has worked with NASA for more than 20 years, including 15 years as a civil servant and 5 years as a government contractor. And over the past decade, he has helped advance NASA communication and navigation capability in roles including SCAN, Deputy Project Manager for Operation, Acting Network Services Division Director, and Chief Engineer for the Near Earth Network. Welcome, and thanks all of you for joining us. Well, we are going to start this wonderful roundtable. And my first question is related to the video that we had just watched, no? About the SCAN. We had just watched the video, and Artemis II depended on a global communication framework, no? Linking the Near Space Network and the Deep Space Network. So the SCAN program oversees this Deep Space Network, including the Madrid Communication Complex in Robledo de Chabela, one of the 3 DSA facilities worldwide. What is NASA SCAN is, and what it stands for?
Well, first of all, sorry I'm late. I came running, but thanks for having me here, and I'm glad you got to see the video, so it explains a little bit about what I do. And one of the things that we always joke about in my program with the Space Communication Navigation Program is that if you send something to space and you can't communicate with it, it's just space junk. Because you really need to talk to it, you need to really get the pictures back. Astronauts need to be able to talk to the ground. Not only talk to a mission control, but also talk to their loved ones. They want to be able to communicate with their families. And so the vital link that we have to our astronauts, to our billions of dollars of investment, I looked at the investment numbers, and the NASA investment portfolio in space is around $200 billion, $250 billion of investment. So imagine if those assets didn't have any connection to the ground. So what we do in the Space Communication Navigation Program is ensure that we have reliable communications and we can talk to everything we launch in space. We cover every NASA mission, from humans to robotic missions, to rovers, to things that are going outside of our solar system like Voyager, where it takes about 1 day to talk to Voyager 1 and Voyager 2. So we cover the full realm of communications. A part of our program is also navigation, knowing where you are. So we have to cover the position, navigation, and timing. And timing is very critical, and I'll probably talk about that a little bit later, but both components are important. Not just communications, but also navigation, how to know where you to navigate through the solar system. And also, when we talk about later on, Artemis 3, the moon-based infrastructure we're going to have on the moon, we need to have that navigation and wireless communications.
And one question related to what you have said, what makes Spain so valuable in terms of communications for the SCAN complex? Over 60 generations, we have participated in all these missions. Why is Spain so important or has been so determinant for the success of all the, from the Apollo mission in 1969 to the Artemis II?
Yeah, Spain's played a critical role over the years. And if you look at the globe and as it spins, we need to at least have 3 locations. And we've had one in Australia, California, and Spain. And Spain covers this entire sector of the Earth. And it covers that we can have constant communications to all of our spacecraft. Spain covers that location, and right now, actually for many, many years, it has the most antennas. So it's the most utilized part of our communications network here in Spain. And it's been critical. If you are watching space news, and hopefully we're all not just looking at space news every day, but we have one of our largest antennas, a 70-meter, which over-rotated, and kept going and broke. That's our largest 70-meter, and California broke. So now we only have 2 70-meter antennas. Spain has the one, Australia has the other one. So it is even more vital that Spain is able to keep that system running. Our site here is pristine. I always give kudos to the team out there in Robledo because they do an excellent job ensuring that that system and that site is maintained very well. It's a key asset in our launches, a key asset in our, all of our NASA objectives. Actually, the astronauts in the last one, the Artemis II, called out Spain and called out all of our stations, thanking them directly. There's a video, I didn't bring that one, but there's a video of them thanking the Deep Space Network for their communications, the support of Artemis II.
Jose Manuel, you have been here in this adventure basically from the very beginning. So how do you remember those early stages of our participation of Spain in collaboration with NASA? I think it's on, right? Yeah.
Testing on the mic, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was how we started every day in the tracking station. By the way, I would like to make a short correction because you haven't mentioned Fresnedillas. Fresnedillas was the Apollo Prime station that was built up just for the Apollo program. Robledo de Chabela existed previously 4 years earlier just for the interplanetary flights and so on, looking to mainly to the moon, unmanned flights, and Mars as well. But Fresnedillas was built up in 1 year and 2 months, very fast because the promise, the words of President Kennedy in the Congress put a mark, put a date when said, excuse me, I don't have his voice, but I believe this nation should commit itself before this decade is out of getting a goal and putting a man on the moon and bringing him safely to the Earth. That was a claim in the Congress. Everybody just stand up, clapping, and no votation at all. The whole Congress, the whole Senate, and the whole country follow him. And at that moment, it started to build up a whole network, a whole enterprise, international enterprise, just to make that possible. I started with only 23 years old, which is not real old, it's very young, you know, when I was called by NASA. And when I entered at the Fresnedillas Apollo Prime, that was the official name for NASA, I couldn't believe where I was. I didn't know anything about that. I get close to one of those 100 on equipment that I never saw in my life in the university, and years after sailing in merchant ships. And the only thing I knew was the switch that said on, off. What about the other thing, the monitor, the lights, the readings, was tremendous. But anyhow, that was an enterprise so fantastic that I thought that it was science fiction. That was in Star Trek videos in those years, you know. I couldn't understand anything. And at the same time, everybody was addressing me in American. Let me say that. It was not the English I learned in the school. That was American. And American is very large. My previous, and I stop on that, my previous examination were two masters, 2 engineers, one from Texas and the other one from Harlem. And they were putting me questions really difficult to understand. But they wanted somebody that couldn't say something like my tailor is rich, or my hat is brown, or the dog is under the table. Oh. That was stupid things for the matter that we have in front. They provide us with books like this. I'm telling that was Apollo program. Goodness, Apollo program. And after that, there was another bigger that it says Apollo application. Oh, immediately I ran to the second one, Apollo application. After a previous program of 20 Apollos, after that they carried in Apollo 17, but initially there were 20. Immediately they will start to build up a city with people and so on, the moon. That was fantastic. I couldn't believe it. And we have to understand that and to learn it, because we have to help the own astronauts. When they go up there, the only contact with the Earth was with us. And we have to know second by second what was going to happen, just in case they could do something wrong or forget it or whatever. We were there. So our mission was important from the very beginning. And I am really satisfied with this opportunity that the Providence gave. Providence and NASA gave me.
So it's, what I read, no, like we were lucky enough, like you have the possibility to hear the very first words from the astronaut saying like, Houston, Tranquility Base here, the Eagle has landed, even before the Americans did it, no? Even before President Nixon did it. Actually, the very first humans who heard the words from Apollo saying that they have landed, it was you and also your team, right? What did you feel at that time? Or how did you celebrate it?
With one, excuse me, wine and Iberico. That particular day, July 20, 1969, NASA decided to leave, you mentioned the 3 tracking complex in the whole planet, decided that the Apollo Prime, Madrid Apollo Prime, Fresnedillas, was going to be in total control during the previous 8 hours of landing with them. So our responsibility was all. happened along those hours. I'm not going to mention all of them, but there were many problems that were occurring on the time. Evidently, any problem up there, 384 kilometers away, you know, that was something like the life of the poor astronauts, the crew. And we were solving the problems that were appearing in different moments. Alarm, there is an alarm, 1202. What was that? 1202. Now, and another one, 1201. Goodness, 1201. Anybody knows what that means? Do we have to abort the mission? No. Have a look, check. Immediately, everybody, what? The computer, the small computer of the lunar module, only have 30,000 kilobytes. 30,000. We have now in gigas in our mobile. The one is in the floor. You know, just a picture is gigas. So we have, the memory was so short from our tracking station, we have to send immediately, constantly, information to the spacecraft and to the astronauts. As soon as the command was executed, to make a clear memory, because there was no room for more. And we have immediately, continuously sending them the information they needed. The spacecraft and their own astronauts, many times by voice, because the contact was obligatory. When finally the two spacecrafts, Columbia and Eagle, separated, and the Eagle with Armstrong and Aldrin just start to look for the place to make a soft landing, they didn't recognize any of the surface, any of the craters or areas that they previously studied with pictures taken from by Apollo X and so on. But they could not stay there days looking for a nice place. And the Capcom, the capsule communicator, Charles Duke, that visited the moon on Apollo 16, after that, was the voice that was in contact with them through us, through the tracking station over there, and he said, 60 seconds. 60 seconds, he didn't have to tell anything else. 60 seconds is all the energy you have to land, and if not, you will abort the mission and will return to the Earth. There was a red button very close to them with the word abort. But Armstrong told me after that he covered with a paper. He didn't want to see it because he said, I have not been prepared for years and studied so much and experienced so many testings that now I'm not going to abort anything. So when, after those 60 seconds, Charles Duke said, 30 seconds, and in this kind of melody, 30 seconds, that means be ready to return. Oh, he immediately removed the cable of the computer, the small computer, and start to pilot. With the first time, a joystick was used in the NASA. Just looking through those triangular small windows, if they could find a place where they make a soft landing and so on. The orders of NASA were if at minus 17 seconds you had not been able to land abort. We were all sweating because Armstrong gave 158 pulses that we could monitor in papers there close to me, at the place where I was. And finally, we saw a row of lights, one from each leg of the lunar module, that lighted. That means that the 4 legs already have touched down. But at the same time, Aldrin was the pilot of the module. He said, lights on, engine stop. He immediately stopped the rocket, the engine. And immediately, the commander, Neil Armstrong, said, tranquility, Houston, tranquility base here, the Eagle has landed. In that moment, we wanted to jump, but we couldn't. Charles Duke said, we understand, he wanted to be sure. We understand you are on the ground. Here around me, he said, there is a bunch of guys who were to turn blue. They are breathing again. Thank you. He was giving the thanks to Armstrong because they continue being alive, breathing. Well, we were in the same way. I mean, we at the tracking station, we were living those moments like them. They were our colleagues, they were our friends, we all belong to the same team. They were up there, but we were down there. Well, fantastic. I couldn't forget it.
Thank you so much. And that brings a question I have for you, Immaculada. That happened in 1969, July 20th. Basically, Spain was under a dictatorship. Resources were limited, and the training program was provided by NASA at the time. And now we continue supporting the NASA after several decades. And my question is, Spain has a strong industrial and also university even. There has been Spanish companies and university that has supported the Artemis too. Also industrial capability, but still operates within this larger European transatlantic ecosystem. Where do you think Spain can offer a distinctive value proposition to US in the aerospace partners, or how can Spanish differentiate from that Spain 60 years ago, how much we have grown in terms, for example, at university or research centers that makes us still a very powerful and valuable partner for United States?
Well, first of all, thank you very much, José Manuel. Excuse me. I was not able to live that moment alive. I was born 5 months later. But I thank you because I have been able for the first time to live it really like I was at that moment now. So thank you very much. It has been impressive. I think in those more than 5 decades, I also have say which is my age, but no problem. In those more than 5 decades, Spain, of course, has changed a lot. Still, NASA remains at that, in the image of all people, it's that, like, that dream that all of us share. I remember many years ago when my kids were very, very small, one day one of my kids arrived at home and said, Mom, someone has told me you work in NASA. Because I was working in the space sector. So for everyone, still NASA and the space sector is like something very, very complementary. Unfortunately, I have never had the opportunity to work in NASA, although I have been working in very interesting Spanish companies. And I think the main difference probably is that now we have a set of very, very interesting companies that offer a very strong collaboration with NASA and in general with the states. I mean, the good thing of the space sector is that now it's not only an institutional sector, but start to be also open to private companies and to private business. That's as in any other sector has there some disadvantages, but for sure has a lot of advantages. Now all the Spanish companies, of course, we still are eager to work with NASA. Anyone will once a company gets a contract with NASA, that's the first thing they told you, I'm working with NASA, I have a contract. But, or I'm working with SpaceX now, or with some, I mean, still for the Spanish company, being collaborating in a US mission, either institutional or private, is like a gold medal. It's something that we are very proud of. But more and more, this is something which is happening, so I hope that in the end, that will be something like common. I mean, I know many Spanish companies, small companies, medium-sized, even bigger companies that currently have contracts with the United States for space projects. In some cases, perhaps are small components, which if you are outside the space sector, probably you don't know what that means. For example, there is a company providing sun sensors to SpaceX. They are the major provider for sun sensor SpaceX. Sun sensor is something like a stamp of 5 centimeter, but it's a very, very tricky technology. There are so many other examples, but coming again to your question, what do we offer? I think we offer something in which engineering, Spanish engineering has been always very significant, which is we have a high, we invent. We, even if it is very difficult to do it in the, probably Professor Rodriguez can tell us about the difficulties of R&D in Spain. We have very, very good engineers. They are very well recognized, not only in Spain, but in Europe and in the States. And this is something that we continue offering to the space sector in general and to all the projects in which we collaborate with the States. Our ability to innovate, our ability to discover new ways of doing things, ways of doing things more cheaper than our competitors, and this is and the trust that in general the Spanish companies offer to the sector. I mean, we have even if it is not a very big sector, the space sector in Spain, we have a well-known worldwide recognition of companies that can be trusted, that deliver technology, very good technology with good prices, in many cases with very, very innovative solutions.
In terms of when I have introduced you to the audience, no, like you are a strong advocate of the involvement of women, no, in the industry. So even I invited Sara García Alonso, who is an astronaut in the European Space Agency. She's the reserve, but unfortunately she couldn't attend this event because she's right now in Argentina. Do you think that we can expect that one day she will be on board of Artemis 4th or 5th when the next spacecraft is sent to the moon? Like we are going to have a new astronaut, because everybody remembers Pedro Duque, the first and sole Spanish astronaut that was sent to the space. But our next one could be Sarah.
Let's hope, but I mean, I will not focus only in being an astronaut. I will focus also in all of the engineering, all of the activities that need to be performed. I'm a very good friend of Pedro Duque. We have been working together for many, many years. And I have another friend, which is also a very good friend of Pedro, that every time he wants to make a joke with Pedro, he always say the same. You know, Pedro, in the end, an astronaut is just like the driver, is just like Fernando Alonso. I mean, the important thing is the Ferrari. I mean, it's not exactly the same. Yeah, even being Fernando Alonso is quite complicated. But yeah, I hope that Sarah or any other women could be one of the crew of one Artemis mission, hopefully. But mainly because, not just for the fact that he's there, that because that will give us an impulse of the presence of women in the technological areas. But the important thing is that we should enforce, we should work in the direction that we have more and more women interested in STEAM areas, because Sarah, before arriving to being an astronaut, he has a previous career as the other astronaut, as Pablo, as engineer, as scientifics. In the case of Sarah, I think she's a biologist. So the important thing is that we work with that idea that no matter if you are a woman, you are a man, you can achieve your dreams, and it's not, and it should be as easier as for a man, it should be for a woman. That I always say that talk with students, children. I always say the same. You can be a woman, you can be an engineer, as it is my case. You can have children, you can be a wife. Everything should be possible, and we as adults should be those ones that ensure that that possibility it's a reality. And I hope that in the coming years, it's true that mainly in Spain, Professor Rodriguez probably will tell us, has been a decline of the presence of women in STEAM careers. But hopefully, for example, examples as the ones you mentioned, the presence of Sarah in an Artemis mission, that probably will be a very big push in the good direction as a marketing action, for sure.
Well, actually, now in the Artemis 3, we have an international team. It's not only US astronaut, but also an Italian member. So it could be, I mean, that's what we have said at the introduction, no? Like if we work together, that this collaboration is based on trust. Also with the industry, it's not just based on competition, but it's everything that we can achieve together based on cooperation. My next question is for Professor Rodriguez Pacheco. I read that you were in Cabo Cañaveral during the launch of Artemis 2, Solar Orbiter. So then the article was wrong. It was in the Spanish television. They said that you and your team were during the days of the previous day of the Artemis 2 there. Anything. How do you feel being in Cabo Cañaveral next to the the center of the NASA development and engineering? Because you were with your team. How do you feel when you are there?
Yeah. First, Jesus, let me thank the organization and particularly you for inviting me here and being surrounded by these giants. I mean, I was 5 years old, 4 years old at that time, and I come from the countryside in Salamanca. I mean, in a family that raised cows, horses, and all this stuff. We have a very small black and white TV, and I have a very blurred memory of Armstrong, you know, in the TV. So what's life, no? That, you know, 57 years later, I will be, you know, by the right side of Jose Manuel that was there speaking with them in person. So thanks, really thanks. And about my experience in that topic is that, when you have been working in a mission, in this case a scientific mission, it was from ESA and NASA, no? For more than 20 years, and you go to Cabo Cañaveral, and everything seems to go, because every time that you go to a space launch, it's a risky that you have to go back without seeing the launch. I mean, that happens with the Parker Solar Probe. I miss it because there are delays. It's a lot of things that can happen during the launch. And during Solar Orbiter, it was February 2020, and we have 3 windows. We missed the 2 first one, I mean, one last one, and it will be a delay of 1 month, something like that. I had to go back, and that was terrible. But we were lucky. At that time, we were in the grade over there, and the speaker, we heard that all the systems were green light, green light, green light, green light. Go! No? Yeah, that was crazy. People started saying, excited, whatever. No? And then we were, I think, 5 miles distance from the launch pad. I have some small binoculars looking at it. And suddenly, when the countdown reached 0, I was blinded completely. I have to remove the binos from my eyes. And I started to see, it was at night. And at night is a special launch because it's like a new sun rising from the horizon. It was like, that's right, that's the image that I have. And a few seconds later, I mean, like you have, I don't know, 1,000 Harley Davidsons right in your ear, no? Right in, something like that. And it was these 8 minutes, the critical 8 minutes that, everything can go wrong. And you have 20 years of your work over there, going up there. But it was a happy moment because we heard from the system engineer, I think in NASA, that Solar Orbiter is now in space, and it's been a successful launch. And ESA now is yours, no? Because now that NASA launched it, you know, pass all the ball to ESA, to Darmstadt in Germany, that is our Houston, to track the mission. And I used to also tell the story that, everything was very happy, and we had to go back at Madrid or whatever. We came through New York, and we see people with some mask on the mouth. What is going on? A lot of things over there. We're happy. We come back home. We have to switch all the systems and all the instruments. We have 10 instruments, 10 scientific instruments on the mission. And we used to go to Germany, to Darmstadt, to gather all together and to check everything and start, to switch on and check that all the systems are ready. And the mission is getting farther and farther and farther away, and the communication is decreasing, and suddenly the pandemic, the virus, and we cannot get out from home. Darmstadt was closed. What do we do? I mean, we have a mission of hundreds of millions over there. We are going to send a brick to the sun if we don't switch on. So we decided to do it at home. Everyone was at home. Log at home, and we have all the new tools that we have right now, the Zoom, all these telecom that we see the faces or whatever, and it was just an experience, quite an experience. I mean, we were just, for instance, in the countdown of switching on one of the systems, and then suddenly you can hear a baby crying, hey, just a second, and you see one of the engineers getting out of the screen, I'm back, I'm here, let's continue. But we did it, and it was great.
So,
great.
Because Solar Orbiter is a key instrument for the success of NASA missions. You lead a group of researchers that analyze data from solar radiation. This task is essential for predicting solar storms that could affect the spacecraft, no?
Yeah.
the University of Alcalá.
And astronauts.
Eh?
The spacecraft and astronauts.
And the astronauts. So, I think people are not aware how important is the task that you laid at the University of Alcalá for the success, not the entire mission, but also for the safety of the astronaut. Can you elaborate a little bit of what our solar orbiter is and how important for the astronaut and the success of the mission is too?
Yeah, looking back at the time of the Apollos, and you see the solar storms and the different Apollos, and they were quite lucky. I mean, it's amazing. We were at that time beginning the understanding of the sun and the space weather and this stuff. Just a few years before the Apollo 11 launch, we learned that there was a solar wind, actually, that the sun was continually emitting particles, electrons, protons that comes to Earth. We knew that there was X-rays up there in the atmosphere, and we saw for the first time the solar corona that we knew that was more than 1 million. It's quite, I mean, when I speak with my students, something that is really shocking is that you say, okay, this is the photosphere, is where all the light that you see from the sun comes from. And we have determined that the temperature is roughly 5,800 degrees. But if you move outward from the core of the sun, that is where all the machinery is going on, you will suspect that you will find lower temperatures. If you get out from the fire, you will feel not so hot. On the contrary, you rise to the corona and you measure the temperature and you find 1 million degrees. 1 million degrees means that that gas should emit an X-rays. And was the Skylab the first one in spotting that the solar corona was emitting X-rays. So when you go out of the Earth atmosphere and the Earth magnetic shield that we have two shields against all these dangers on the space. It's the atmosphere, and then we have the magnetic field. And now NASA has learned that, hey, be careful. If we go out, we have to take care. I mean, we need some kind of, you have, for instance, the meteor on Earth that give you forecasts of storms or of rain or whatever. You will need somebody like that when you go out there. Particularly, you go to Mars. You have a trip of months, so for that you will for sure need that somebody tell you, hey, protect, something is coming. So that was the idea. I mean, Solar Orbiter was launched just to study the sun from the vicinity of the sun, no? So you can see the details. But somebody in headquarters in Washington realized that, hey guys, we have a mission that is, NASA is partner of the mission, that is like, for instance, these tsunamis, you have like a sensor on the ocean over there that can give you an alarm with minutes in advance for the astronaut to cover to a safe place. So they contact us, and we were excited to serve NASA in this regard and to somehow collaborate in returning to the moon. So for this boy, Charlie, with 5 years old in the countryside in Salamanca, now being involved in this is like, wow, what is life?
So it's true that we can have achieved a lot, and we can start new missions. But at the end, we don't bring the astronauts back. It's a complete failure, no? Like you can have a perfect launch, but if at the end you cannot bring, using the telecommunication, the station, the scan network, or the solar orbiter, and all the hundreds of engineers around the world that participate, at the end, if you don't bring those astronauts back, we don't success at all, no? So that's a question I'm gonna ask you to all of you, and that's a guess. When we are gonna reach Mars, is this gonna be in the next decade? What are your guess?
I was gonna say that, Jose Manuel's comment with Kennedy, it was a key word there, right? It was, like you said, go to the moon, but return them safely. That's a key part of that sentence. A lot of times we talk about, oh, go to the moon, go to the moon. We can send people to the moon. The safely part is key, and that's why it takes so long. That's why you see delays. That's why you see all the preparation work we do. is not the going to the moon, it's not the landing, it's the safety part of actually landing safely and returning them safely. That's where most of the work comes into play. How do we ensure that we can have astronaut safety? And so when we talk about things like Mars, that safety part is really challenging, really challenging. And so, yeah, we can send people to Mars. We send rovers, we can put a capsule together and send them. Can we bring them back? Can they be safe? That's the part that requires a lot of engineering to handle that return. We've had challenges, I won't go too much because it's the Mars sample return that's been very shaky and challenging with our partnerships with ESA. The Mars sample return mission has had many challenges because we're right now the rover on Mars that's putting samples on the ground. Right now it's putting samples on the ground to be picked up. They're there, waiting to be picked up. Now we want to go get them and bring them back. We can get there, bringing them back is tough. And so we've had challenges over challenges to figure out how to grab that sample and launch a rocket to go back to do a return trajectory to Earth. That's been the challenge. That's where we had the cost overruns. And so I think that safety part is something that we have challenges with when we work together on all of our partners to figure out how we can execute a safe return of our astronauts. Our focus right now, and you'll see a little later, is just the Artemis is the moon base. Let's build up, let's get practice. Let's get practice on the moon, let's have sustained presence. And solar weather, I wanted to do a little nod to that because that's important because one of our key tenets when we are talking about communications infrastructure, when we talk about our infrastructure on the moon, a moon base, one of the 3 signals we want to have is a lunar relay we're building a lunar relay. One was communications, that's important. Timing, navigation, kind of go together. And beacons for things like solar weather. So when astronauts are outside, walking around, they have some kind of device that alerts them that, hey, you should probably go inside. We get those alerts now about, we have UV protection, things are bad. Astronauts will need that. They'll need some kind of quick messaging, quick alerts. And that's all in communications. How do we have that good communications, that fast response, and those types of assets that we have that monitor the sun constantly to ensure that we have that safety aspect built in. The safety aspect does take a lot, which will probably push our Mars exploration out a little bit. But 2028 is our lunar landing and moon base. So we're talking about the next decade or two.
So taking the opportunity that you have talked about Artemis 3, we can just show the video that we have prepared. If you can just show the video.
I'll give you a little prelude on the video before it shows. This is the selection of our 4 new astronauts that was just made a week and a half ago, I believe it was. So 4 astronauts selected, one from ESA, Italian, Luca. A little note on Luca, he was an astronaut. If you haven't read the story, it's probably on YouTube everywhere. He had a leak in his spacesuit, and it started to cause him to drown. He was losing oxygen, so water was filling up in his spacesuit, and he had to calmly, because it's not quick to go from outside to go inside the space station. It's a process, and it takes a while. So if you can imagine, you're slowly drowning, and you have to slowly open a hatch, be calm, do all the depressurization, get inside, take it off. It's not a quick process. So can you imagine just being calm and slowly doing all of that while water is filling in? So calm under pressure, that's exactly what he has, and we're happy that he's going on this next mission.
I have a general question for all of you. Like the new idea, the new concept of new space, the participation of private companies is going to be crucial in developing all these new missions and reaching Mars. What do you think? How important is going to be private sector in making this mission possible? Because for all the decades in the past, it was a national state agency, and now we have a huge involvement of large corporations. Are going to be crucial for the success in the future of this Artemis 3 or even reaching Mars? What do you think?
Well, question is for me because I'm the private sector.
Yeah, you're private sector, but you're
I hope so. I mean, I firmly believe private sector will play a significant role. Of course, I mean, those type of missions going to the moon, going to Mars, still has need a very strong back on institutional partners for a very simple reason, because most investors do not put money if they do not get a return, and up to now there is not a clear return in going to Mars or going to the moon. They will be in the next decades, but not for now. I mean, so, but that does not mean that the private sector does not play a significant role, because as I mentioned before, even if there are institutional missions, the private sector provides a lot of instruments, elements, systems, subsystems, even infrastructure here in ground. So the private sector is involved, but probably for the coming 2-3 decades, still those type of missions, I used to call those missions dreaming missions, should be still pushed by institutional by institutions such as NASA, such as ESA. It's true that in the IPO test that Elon Musk has sent, he said that he will have 1 million people living in Mars by 2050. Let's see. I mean, having 1 million people in Mars, what are they doing? They are having drinks. They are working. Where do they live? What do they do? I mean, so it's not so easy. Yeah. As you said, Philip, it's not so easy. I mean, going and then coming back. I mean, if you want to risk or the possibility of not coming back, probably, but convince 1 million people in the Earth that they are going there and not coming back, still is not so easy. So yes, private sector will play a significant role, an important role, but for sure those type of missions need to be led clearly by strong institutions. Not just only led by one institution. I would like to add that should be a collaboration among different countries, among different institutions, because in the end, it's a dream mission, and those dreams must be built with the needs and with the ideas of many, many people.
José Manuel, when do you think that we are going to reach Mars? So it's going to be by 2050, just 3 people or 1 million? What do you think?
Well, testing on the mic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to be sure. To me, this is a repetition of what I experienced 57 years ago and years after that with the whole program, Apollo program and all those after that, manned space flights and so on. the experience of the launching of the Saturn V is something incredible. And now I see them on TV, but with no emotion at all, because it's the same thing that I experienced for the first time, because most of the things we did then were first time. This is the first time that you are going to do this and so on. Most of the equipment that I mentioned and so on, no, not most of them, all of them were brand new. They were invented and designed and engineered according with the necessities that NASA were explaining. You couldn't go to the market and say, I need this and this and this, and I take it with me. No, no, no. So we have to learn as much as the own engineer who designed every equipment, and all the equipments were different because each one was having a target to accomplish. So most of the things, going back to your question, most of the things are known to me. I mean, not everything, because there are things that could be something magic, like see the rocket coming back to the initial point. Sometimes they explode, but you know, those things also happened in those years, time ago. And, but many others are very similar. I mean, the importance of the communications, the constant voice chatting with the astronauts were very, very important. NASA knew that, and the astronauts, I have been working with many of them, told me that, and you remember, I will be short. On Apollo 15, that was on July 1971, John Young was the commander, who was talking to Houston through us, and in a long conversation and so on. And suddenly, a blackout between Spain and the US. That doesn't occur very often, you know. But he immediately, John Young, started to call. Said he didn't receive any answer from Houston. Oh, Houston, this is Apollo 15. Houston, this is Apollo 15. And we were monitoring all the time that were a crew up there, you know, their constants, and the pulses and the activity of the brain and so on. And we saw that those readings in the needle with the ink were going faster and faster and faster. That could be a danger. So what to do? Immediately, our supervisor, Madrid, Fresnedillas, took the place of Houston without any permission, because we couldn't contact the United States. And immediately said, hey, Apollo 15, this is Madrid. We are in contact with you. This is momentarily blocked out. We didn't know what was that, you know, but we had to say something like a lie, no. But we are with you. Oh, can you believe that he said, oh, Madrid, beautiful Madrid, wonderful Madrid. He didn't know how to say, viva la madre que te parió Madrid. But I know he wanted to say, you know. Well, years after that, John Young was the first commander of the Columbia in the space, the first space shuttle. He came to pay a visit to us with his wife, I remember, and he asked to the Spanish people, in those years already everybody, all the technicians, engineers and so on were Spanish, and we received, we were 15, I don't remember, and he said, any of you were on Apollo 15 when, immediately raised my hand and said, me and another colleague, you know, and He came to us, gave us a huge, and said, you don't know how important was for us to stay so far away, listening your voice. He said, I will remember always, that is a vital line for us. It's like an unknown staircase going straight to the earth, that voice. We felt like that. So anything that could happen, but listening your voice is fantastic. You cannot believe it. So, well, I wanted to tell it, and I tell it, just to mention the importance of those communications.
Thank you. And my very last question is for Professor Rodriguez Pacheco. Very briefly, because we are running out of time. How important is going to be the role of the university for the development of Spain in this transatlantic cooperation? Since the University of Alcalá has played a key role in the representation of Spanish universities in collaboration with NASA, how do you see the future of the role of the Spanish university in the participation of the NASA programs?
It's been. I mean, it's not something that is going to happen in the future. It's been right now. I mean, in Alcalá University, I can speak from my university, we have all the degrees up to the PhD for space studies and astrobiology. We have Torrejón de Ardoz and INTAC and the Centro de Astrobiología nearby, and we have this program. And it's a great opportunity. I mean, for all the students that start with 18 years old, I told them that, hey, there is a lot of opportunities. Maybe not in Spain. This is the sad part of the story, that many of the students that I had are abroad, are in the States, are in Germany, or in some other countries, because they don't have the chance, the opportunity to work on space in Spain. But I think that they are starting coming back. So that's great, but means that, yeah, maybe these countries start to realize that this is an opportunity, the last frontier, as Star Trek used to claim. No? So I think that for us, for the lecturers, the professor, is a great opportunity to have students since the very beginning up to the PhD thesis, and they go out and they come back. Yeah, there is a lot of chances. Just for technology, I was listening to you very, keen, because the moon is an opportunity. I mean, the moon is a training camp for going to Mars. We have to be really keen with all the maneuvers and the living, and it's great. But besides being, this training camp for Mars, it's also an opportunity for science, for astrophysics, because, for instance, when we studied the story of the universe from the very beginning, from the Big Bang, there is a period of time what we call the dark ages, because we can't see what happened there. And the only means that we have for studying this period is by studying some electromagnetic waves. I don't want to get too much into details of science and technology, but we have to get out of the Earth's atmosphere, because the Earth is blocking these emissions from the universe, and the moon is the right place, because we need some kind of huge crater-sized antenna to listen to the universe. So there are a lot of opportunities for science and for technology for the moon epoch that is starting now. It's in this moment, as we speak. It's going on. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to open to the audience the opportunity to ask questions. We can have a couple of them. Yes.
Well, I wanted to ask Philip, since space is like so important right now, and we're seeing more satellites being launched day after day after day, is there a possibility of having like too much stuff in Earth's orbit that it can cause an interference with other like deep space probes that you have or satellites? Thank you.
Yes. No, I mean, there's a lot of networks, Starlink, Kuiper, all of them are launching OneWeb. The problem we're having right now is figuring out how to clean it up and having systems that will go and collect it and deorbit it. We're doing regulation. It's a lot of, right now it's on the policy side. It's on the government policy side in the US and Europe on how to regulate things that are being launched. They have to have a plan for deorbit. In the past, you can launch a satellite, CubeSat, and you could just, well, never mind, just let it go and walk away. And there was no regulation, no penalty for just letting it float. Now the regulations is when you launch, you have to have a plan for how you can deorbit it. It has to be powered so you can deorbit it and have it burn up in the atmosphere. Or you have to be able to park it in a graveyard orbit, as we call it, where you put it up and it's kind of a little graveyard there of things. And so that's kind of one of the key areas, because what we're worried about is the Kessler effect, right, of the snowball of crashes. When one hits one and it creates debris, hits another one, and then all of a sudden you just pretty much eliminate a possibility to even launch a rocket through the debris field. And so that is an ongoing concern we have. Right now it's really in the policy side. It's, at this point, it's impossible to go back in time and change, hey, maybe we shouldn't do a constellation so large. No, that moment has passed. So now it's about mitigation. How do we mitigate and operate and work with these constellations? How do we coordinate interoperability between the constellations so they can talk to each other and they can maneuver around so there's not a possibility of crashing? And how do we build servicing missions that can go there and deorbit things, grab debris, bring it down safely so we can create these barriers so we can actually leave and still have that, not only astronomy, because that's a problem we're having too with the reflective of some of these constellations, but also just for getting out of our orbit. So yes, it's a problem, but I'd say right now it's mostly in the policy regulatory side.
Yes, to mention that Spanish government has lots, 4 months ago, has lots satellite that costs about 700 million euros because of space debris. It was a government satellite. It was declared lost like 3-4 months ago. Yeah, before entering in operation, just when it was moving to the right orbit, it was no use at all. It was purely new, but was lost, unfortunately. So it's a huge problem.
Yeah, may I say that for our solar orbiter, at the beginning it was in the cruise phase. It lasted for almost 3 years until it reached the final orbit, and it went to the other side of the sun. I mean, 300 million kilometers from Earth. But then he went back and made Earth flyby to get the impulse to the final orbit, and it passes just 300 kilometers above the surface. And some amateur astronomers just in the Canary Islands just make the picture. You can see like the star going there. That was solar orbiter. But the story is that we were quite concerned because of the debris, because we are going to cross a belt of debris. And a few days of solar orbiter coming to Earth, the Russians tested a new weapon and blow up a satellite, an entire satellite, and all the calculation, all the math that we had made were thrown to the rubbish. I mean, it was a crazy time. And we had the support, in that case, of the United States, some agencies of the government that study and say, hey, calm. Looks like you can pass through without any event, something like that. But it was a really stressed time at that time, yeah.
So an additional and final question. And let's try to be brief because we have our cocktail right after. Well, also we had the closing remark by Alberto from the Fulbright Commission.
Excellent. No, just very briefly. Actually, you haven't touched upon the science of biology in space. Okay. So just a quick question. Moving towards that new horizon in which actually humans can move away, one of the key challenges is actually sort of slowing time because it takes a long time to arrive to any new of these potential colonies out there. Humans, you know, we have a high metabolic rate. Of course, this in the science fiction movies has been well portrayed. But my question is, are there any novel developments in terms of how we can actually induce hibernation or reduce the tempo at which we are actually using our metabolic systems to actually give an extra leeway of security for some of these very, very far distant. Maybe we don't have that problem for the moon, but we might have it already for Mars or for other further explorations. Are there any new developments, activation of new metabolic pathways, or any other scientific insights that are currently under development to actually help cope with these long distance and the reduction of that energy expenditure by humans?
I have a very cursory knowledge of this one. For Artemis 2, we did do a lot of genetic and biological measuring of the crew. And so there was, and this was mostly on the news, maybe not as much, but as they were going down, they were the farthest humans away from the Earth. They did a lot, on the far side, they did a lot of genetic, they did a lot of testing of their metabolics, their blood sugar, all their sequencing, just to try to have that as part of their testing. It's going to be part of the moon-based plan when we do sustained presence of what things can be done to help with a Mars campaign. But there's been no direct, and of course, again, there's maybe more planning in the science side, but there's been no direct plans at this moment beyond Mars for going there. And for Mars right now, the current process we have is supposedly enough. So we'll see, but again, there's a lot of testing still going to happen on the moon base when we have the human sustained presence. Just a quick note on that, and I'm going to do a plug for communications again. One of the things that one of the, I guess, rationales or one of the concepts for why do you have increased communications for Mars is the mental part of it. Long duration missions, isolation, it causes lots of problems even to your immune system, to your physiology, to all of that, to your biology, all your chemistry, all that. The emotional toll of isolation does have an impact. And so one of the reasons they're talking about communications, that having that contact is to reduce that toll, to have constant communication to Earth, to family, and to others, so the humans still feel connected, because that does have a ripple effect in the biology.
Well, and now it's my turn to, of course, thanks to the University of Nebrija for providing us this wonderful space. The US Embassy here in Madrid for the support, not only in this event, but also along all the events that we have organized to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. The Fulbright Commission and all the volunteers that made this sensational event possible, like Ana Romero, Isabel, who is also here, thank you for coming, Aileen, Alicia, Enar Amos, and many others, like Ana Lauriño from the University of Alcalá, the Institute Franklin, and of course, all the wonderful panelists, Philip, Jose Manuel, Professor, Inmaculada. Thank you, and a huge applause for them, because it was an extraordinary presentation. So, and the final closing remarks, Alberto, if you can just share a final word on behalf of the Fulbright Commission.
Thank you. But I'm not going to talk on behalf of the Fulbright Commission, well, just a bit. But I want to talk as a member of Fulbright Network, because it's an honor for me to be a member of your association. You are a pro bono hard workers, and you have put together such a fantastic panel. I really appreciate your remarks, making it emotional. I mean, we, at least me, could feel that it's not just a job, it's a personal experience what you have transmitted to us. So thanks for your fantastic remarks. Thank you for the Fulbright Network for putting all this all together. And yes, and Fulbright has a lot to do with the NASA missions. I guess we've been talking about communications, we've been talking about networks, we've been talking about cultural understanding, and that is also what Fulbright is about. And I was not preparing these remarks today, but I was reading the news, and we have another thing in common. 14 years ago, the Fulbright program was awarded the Prince of Asturias Award of International Cooperation, from which we are very, very proud of. And today, the princess, because now it is a Princess of Asturias jury, has awarded Christine Koch, the astronaut, the Princess of Asturias Award to Concord. So we have another thing in common that we can discuss now in the cocktail. So thank you very much for all of that. Thank you very much, Fulbright Network, for putting together this fantastic panel. And let's go and network in the cocktail. Thank you.
So let's have some drinks and appetizers. We are going to take a final picture of together, but we can just start going out. You can find all the table right outside here, and feel free to get anything that you want to. Thank you for coming, and thank you to all the panelists. It was wonderful, and thank you for such a great experience.